Exciting times coming up this weekend in the world of high school sports here in Southern California. You know, everybody talks about football, they talk about basketball because those playoffs are around the corner. Football is always the mega draw. Baseball's great. But you know what? It's time for hockey to take center stage. Ice hockey, that is. We've got a big tournament coming up this weekend right here in Anaheim, California. Let's talk about the big boys that are going to be competing for the CAHA High School State Championships over at the rinks at Anaheim Ice this upcoming weekend. Now, there's two different divisions. You win the division, you're going to Nationals. Nationals this year being held out in Plymouth, Minnesota. No, they do not have a disappointing rock that you can go visit and look at. That's a lot smaller than you thought it was after what you learned in grade school. Now, here's another thing we're going to break down while we talk about the 4 teams in Division 1A and the 3 teams in Division 2A. Now, those numbers and letters do have meaning. We'll get to that in just a second. What you need to know is there are 4 teams that come out of the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League in their top division from Division 1 that qualified for the state championships. In Division 2A, there are 3 teams from the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League that qualified for the 2A High School State Championships. Again, all that has meaning. These teams qualified throughout the year. Let's break it down, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how this all works. It's very complicated. The first thing I want to bring up is that ice hockey in California is completely different than any other sport you're used to. So if you're new to ice hockey, let's talk about some of the particulars to start. First of all, I talked about Division 1A and Division 2A. 1A, that number 1, that means that all the teams qualifying in that division are pure. What is pure? We don't have that in every other sport here in California. Pure means every student goes to that high school. So if you look at the 4 teams that have qualified, Desert Christian Academy, Fairmont Prep, Santa Margarita Catholic High School, and Orange Lutheran High School. Every player for all 4 of those teams attends those schools. Everyone's saying, okay, that's how it should be, right? Well, again, ice hockey different because we don't have a whole lot of ice out here and we don't have a whole lot of hockey players. So there are a lot of teams that do have student athletes that come from different schools. That's where 2A comes in. The 2 meaning non-pure or combined, either term works. That means those teams have players that attend different schools and they all come together and play on one. You can call it a district team. We call it combined or non-pure. So that's why you have the 2 different divisions that are separated, 1A and 2A. There's meaning behind A and B. That's a whole other deal that we're not going to get into here today. We're just going to talk about 1 and 2. All those teams I mentioned, 4 in 1A, 3 in 2A, compete in the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League. They all declared they want to head to nationals in the division that they are designated in. What does that mean? Well, you have to go through a qualification process. And that qualification process is you have to play every other team that's qualifying in that division twice. And not only do you have to play them twice, it has to be outside of league play. So you can't just count your league games against one another in the ADHSHL as CAHA qualifying games. You have to play 2 outside of that. Everybody in this area who knows how qualification works is going to jump down my throat saying, yeah, Eric, but some teams did do that. All right, there were some one-offs that needed to happen to make sure everything got in time, especially with the timeline being moved up to the end of January this year for the state championship. Used to be later on in the year, but they needed to move some things around to make this happen. So yes, there were some exceptions that were made, but typically that's not the case. You have to play the games outside of your league play. So if you look in the case of Division 1A, there were 6 teams trying to qualify, the 4 that made it, plus Tahoe Hockey Academy, and also St. John Bosco. So all 6 of those teams, they had to play each other twice outside of league play. A few of them did count a league game as the CAHA qualifier. So you play everybody twice, and it's one big table. It goes by points. You get 2 points for a win. You get 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss. And the 4 teams with the most points get to advance to the states. And that's what happened here in Division 1A. So we talk about 1A first. Here's your lineup. You got Desert Christian Academy is number 1. Fairmont finished number 2. Santa Margarita is number 3. And number 4 is Orange Lutheran. Tahoe and St. John Bosco were eliminated after, let's just call it group play. If you're a soccer fan, you know what that means. So we'll just call it that. So now those 4 teams will ascend on Anaheim this upcoming week. at the rinks at Anaheim Ice, where they will once again play round robin this weekend, but they'll only play each other once. So you'll have the 4 play the 1, the 2 play the 3, the 1 play the 2, the 3 play the 4, the 3 play the 1. So it's a much condensed process or condensed round robin than what we saw in qualifying. After they play those games, which by the way you can see at the bottom of your screen here, which is where all of the Division 1A game schedule is listed. Once they play all of those games, they'll do the same thing. They'll add up the points. Who had the most points, who was second, who was third. Number 4 will be eliminated. Number 1 will get an automatic bye into the into the state championship game on Sunday morning. Number 2 and number 3 will play a semifinal on Saturday night, with the winner advancing to the title game on Sunday morning against the number 1 seed. So it's a very condensed tournament over the weekend. That is how California determines their champion in 1A. It's similar in 2A. We'll talk about that in a separate video later on. But for 1A, the way they do the scheduling is 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3 to start the day. And those games will be early on Friday morning. And then everybody will switch. So you're going to have the 4 play the 2 and the 3 play the 1 in the night session on Friday. Saturday morning, they will rotate once again and play their final round robin game. And then, like I mentioned, the 2 and 3 will play the semifinal that night. And the number 1 seed goes to the title game automatically on Sunday. So that's how it works. It's actually really not that complicated. There's just some steps in there that make it seem like it's a little all over the map. That's how California determines its champion. Now, last year, since the tournament was held in Irvine and there was one state that did not decide to send a representative, California got 2 representatives. And if you remember, it was Fairmont and it was St. John Bosco, who ended up meeting in the national semifinal. Fairmont made it to the national championship game before becoming runners-up. But this year, it looks like there's only going to be 1 spot available for Division 1A in California to go to national. So it's just the winner. At the moment that this video is being recorded, right now, it's just the winner. Could an at-large be added to California at some point during the week? It wouldn't surprise me if it does. It wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't. It's just kind of how the other layout is, which we don't know is going on the USA Hockey side of things for the tournament out in Plymouth. So that's basically what you're looking at here as far as the tournament format, what the schedule is going to look like this weekend, and how we're going to determine a champion. So let's talk about the 4 teams. 3 of the 4 were in the tournament last year. The only one not returning is St. John Bosco. They were usurped by Desert Christian Academy, who is in their first year in high school hockey here in California, and they have taken the whole map by storm. They've got a great lineup, bunch of all-stars who are going to compete in the ADHSHO Premier game next week after the state championships is over, to display their talents in front of a bunch of scouts. That will be over at Honda Center, 6 p.m. by the way, if you want to head over there and check that out. You're going to see a lot of all-stars from all 4 of these teams, not surprising. You've got Carson Somers, who is a forward that can score pretty much at will. He's got great eyes. He can surveil the ice at any moment, great with his teammates to see where they're moving when he's got the puck. Doesn't have his head down a whole lot, as you shouldn't at the Division 1 level in California, but he can score also. So keep an eye on him. I believe number 26 is his number. We'll see him out there this weekend. They got a big defenseman named Jordan Blanchette. At last check, he was measured at 9'12". That's just an estimate, give or take a few. He's a big dude, great kid, but he is a force back there defensively. So is Corbin Dunphy. Another player to look out for, Sidney Dunster. Just a few. I'm throwing out a few names here to look out for with this team. But really, it is a complete team effort when you look at Desert Christian Academy play. They haven't been playing with each other very long. This is their first year in the league, but they have gelled quite well throughout the season. They're the number 1 seed going into the high school state tournament. Let's take a look at the number 2 seed, the 2-time defending champion, Fairmont Prep Squad. This is the essence of team hockey when you're looking at Fairmont here. They've got some guys who can score and put the puck in the back of the net, but for the most part, they were depleted after last year. They lost 16 seniors and kind of had to retool the group, but they practice well together as a program, so they know what they're looking at when they get out there. Are you going to have somebody go out there and have a 40-goal season in the high school ranks? No, probably not, because they spread things around. One guy I want you to pay attention to is number 8, Sasha Basal. He is one of the stars on this Fairmont team for sure. Again, another all-star going to play in the all-star game on Tuesday. So keep an eye on him. He is a playmaker. He can burst out at any moment. He's got some speed. But again, another player who's just got great knowledge and great vision when he's out there on the ice. The 3 seed, of course, another team that has won multiple state championships. That's the Santa Margarita Eagles. They come in just loaded offensively. Mateo Zoratich, Logan Bassiano, Lucas Savant, Nico Velasquez. I'm probably going to miss a couple of guys' names, and they're going to get mad at me later, but these are some guys that you need to look out for when it comes to this tournament this weekend. On the back end, they've got some defensemen that may not be around this weekend because there are some other club things going on. So there's going to be a few players missing probably from Santa Margarita and Orange Lutheran, but we'll keep an eye on that. But the Eagles have fared well even when they were shorthanded, so I don't know that that's going to hinder them that much. They were able to take down a couple of these other teams in this division without those players, and namely Olu a few weeks ago. So might not be, it's a big loss, right, if you're missing some guys, if they're going to be gone. But if they're not, they know how to pick up the pieces. They rely on number 44. That's Mateo Zoratich. He's the fire starter. Gets a lot of assists. He can score at will. But he's the quarterback of this team. He really is. He's the one who makes it go. So keep an eye on him. And then last but certainly not least, qualifying fourth are the Orange Lutheran Lancers, another team who were actually the state champions for 4 years running before Fairmont came along. So August Aiken is going to have that team rolling on all cylinders coming into this weekend showcase, or I should say state championship. So a couple of guys you want to look out for here. Jaden Wiener, defenseman. This kid can score too from the point. He can activate, get the puck behind the netminder. Keep an eye on him. Believe he wears number 44. I don't have my roster in front of me. You think I'd be prepared for these things when I talk about them, but keep an eye on Jaden Wiener. He's one of their top performers. The big thing to look out here for Orange Lutheran this weekend is Mason Reed. He's missed most of the season with an injury. He's going to come back, we think, for the showcase. Hopefully he's okay. He's going to be able to play this weekend, but if he is out there, this kid is something else. He can weave his way through traffic. He knows where he's at on the ice at all times. He's great with his teammates, so keep an eye on Mason Reed. He's the other one to look out for Orange Lutheran. And then when you talk about all the teams, we talk about goaltending, it is an absolute wild card. You got some great goaltenders in Division 1. Some days it doesn't go as well for them. This could really be a scorer's tournament. I would expect to see maybe big numbers up on the board. When we're talking about big numbers for high school in the 4s and 5s, that may not be as big a number as some other games, but I would expect to see a lot of 4s and 5s on the board throughout qualifying this weekend. All these teams can score. And this is usually the time in the video where I would tell you my picks and who I think is going to advance and win the state championship. I'm not going to do that. Journalistic integrity here. I'm actually going to do play-by-play for a few games this weekend. So we won't pick who we think is going to win. But what I will tell you is I've been broadcasting high school hockey for 17 years, and this is the most wide open I have ever seen the state tournament when 4 teams have been involved. They have beat up on each other all year. In league play, in qualifying, it doesn't matter. Games go into shootouts. Upsets happen here and there. Even when one team is shorthanded, they're beating the team who's at full strength. Anything can happen here over those 3 days in Anaheim, starting Friday, January 23rd at 9 a.m. They're going to have both rinks going at the same time, so make sure when you get to the rink, if you're going to go watch the game, you know which rink your team is playing on. Also, if you cannot make it out, once again on CIH Media, we will be covering every game that Santa Margarita participates in, and we will start with that 9:15 a.m. game on Friday when the Eagles take on Fairmont in that 3 versus 2 game to start, and then later on that evening, or actually it's later in the afternoon at 3:45 p.m., Eagles will hit the ice again. They're going to play Desert Christian Academy on Friday evening, and then their Saturday morning final round robin game will be against Orange Lutheran, and that game will be at 11:15 a.m. You can go to CAHA.com, check out the schedule. We have the 1A schedule down there at the bottom for you. Also going to talk about Division 2A a little bit. That'll be another video posted here on our CIH Media YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell to get your notifications for whenever we have new content. But it should be a fun weekend out at Anaheim, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along in the action and see who's headed to Minnesota for the national championships. That's it from now on CIH Media. I'm Erik Pessolano. Go check out that 2A preview coming up.